We are truly blessed to have such musical talent in our church. It amazes me that people can play instruments like that. I can barely play the radio sometimes. I told the early service that the favorite thing about preaching is that I'm taller. I have this little box that I get to stand on, so it's really kind of cool. There were these two little boys. They belonged to this church, and they were always getting into mischief. If anything was missing, had been marked on, was dirty, broken, generally, these two boys had something to do with it. Just for fun, we'll call them Tim and Sean. Now, the church was really excited because they had a new preacher coming into town. And he was not only supposed to be great in the pulpit, he was supposed to be awesome with disciplining kids. So sure enough, that first Sunday, he delivered a home run in the pulpit. And then after the service, he gets those two young brothers, those two boys, and he takes them to the office. Now he has the older boy wait in the lobby, and he takes the younger one in his office. So here's this young boy sitting in one of those big chairs, looking across this big desk. And the preacher looks forward, leans forward on the desk, and looks at him and goes, "You know where God is?" The little boy looked at him, but he didn't answer. So this next time, the preacher said in a little bit more of a stern voice, he leaned forward a little bit closer, and he goes, "Son, do you know where God is?" The little boy's eyes got big, color drained out of his face. He got up and ran out of the office, passed his brother in the lobby, ran out the front doors of the church all the way home. Well, this scared his big brother so bad that he too got up and ran all the way home. He finally found his little brother and goes, "What in the world happened?" And his little brother goes, "Oh man, it is so bad this time. We're in such big trouble." The older brother goes, "Well, what is it?" And the little boy goes, "Well, God is missing, and they think we have something to do with it." You know, that joke is so funny because it's true. I have had to have these reflective moments in my life, you know, when things have gone wrong, little things, big things. I sit back and I look at it and I go, what is going wrong? And I realize that God is missing, and then I had something to do with it. I have been really busy trying to just fit God into my life when it's convenient for me, rather than trying to live my life around God. Now, I'm going to step out on a limb here, and I'm going to bet that I'm not the only person in this room that can admit to this. I think that we can all remember the times that we've had relationship problems. You know, trying to find a relationship, trying to keep a relationship. We've had family issues. Our kids are growing up, becoming teenagers. Our parents are getting older. We're getting older. We're getting sicker. We have financial issues. Trying to pay the bills, trying to have a savings, thinking about retirement, worried about retirement. All of these things, we sit there at the end of the day and we're so stressed out, we can't figure out what's going on. What happened here? This is not my easy life. And then I think if we really honestly look at what the problem is, I think that we could all admit that God is missing. And we got something to do with it. I think we all practice this art of trying to fit God into our life whenever it's convenient for us and not living our life around God. Well, I have good news. We're not the only people that have struggled with this. As a matter of fact, Jesus talked to 3 would-be disciples about this very same issue. The text we're going to look at today is Luke 9:57 through 62, and Robin will make it magically appear up there. I'm going to go through this 2 verses at a time. The first 2, 57 and 58. As they were walking along the road, a man said to him, "I will follow you wherever you go." Jesus replied, "Foxes have dens and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head." Well, at first look, when you look at this verse, this doesn't really seem like friendly Jesus, does it? I mean, isn't this a guy that's supposed to be wanting disciples to come to him? He has some guy volunteering, and he's really almost trying to talk him out of it. And it didn't make sense to me until I learned the rest of the story. Let me paint the picture for you. At this time, Jesus he's like a rock star. He's just fed the 5,000. He's been healing people left and right. sermons. Everybody wants to be a part of this. There's this whole excitement that follows him. Everybody wants to follow Jesus, including this guy. But who is this guy? Well, this guy was a scribe. A scribe is a person who wrote or transcribed all the scriptures and some of the laws. Because he was able to do this, this meant he was educated. That also meant that he was from a wealthy family. And being that he's a scribe means that he works for the Pharisees. These are the very people that hated Jesus and wanted to kill him. So what was Jesus trying to say to him with the foxes and the birds? He was asking him, dude, are you really ready to follow me? Are you really ready to give up all that you have? You have a silver spoon in your mouth. You have servants, a big nice home. You eat nicely every meal. We don't do that here. I don't fly first class. I don't stay in the presidential suite. There's no grand buffets for me. I'm the Son of God, and I don't even have a home. We don't know where I'm going to sleep. Are you really ready to follow me? Now, what does these scriptures mean for us today? What was Jesus trying to tell us? He was trying to tell us that we need to not focus as much on these earthly securities. Our earthly securities, like our homes and our cars and our jobs. How much commitment do we put into those things? I would bet for most of us, that's all we think about. These earthly securities. But earthly securities, well, they're not that secure. In my job as a fireman, I've seen what happens to houses. They go away. Tornadoes, floods, fires, poof, they're gone. Cars, they can go away. Wrecks, they can get stolen. And then, our jobs. How many of us here don't know somebody or haven't personally been affected by a layoff? Your jobs can go away. There are no earthly securities. Now notice I said there's no earthly securities. I didn't say there were no securities. Jesus was instructing us to focus on our heavenly security. Focus on God and His faithfulness in us. Focus on our life, the life that we're going to have beyond this one. That spiritual security, nobody can take that away from us. You see, He doesn't want us to try to just fit God into our life. He wants us to start living our lives around God. The next two verses are this. He said to another man, "Follow me." But he replied, "Lord, first let me go and bury my father." Jesus said to him, "Let the dead bury their own dead, but you go and proclaim the kingdom of God." Wow. There again, that doesn't seem like nice Jesus, does it? I mean, the guy sounds like he has a fairly legitimate reason to want to go do something. He wants to go bury his father. And Jesus is almost, well, it seems like he's being rude to this guy. Well, that is until we know the rest of the story. You see, you need to understand what the Jewish burial principles or practices were back then. As soon as somebody died, they put him in a tomb. I mean, like that day, they go in a tomb. Then there's a period of mourning for 7 days, followed by an extended period of mourning. And then after the body decomposes, like all the skin goes away, all the organs are gone, the only thing that's left are the bones. When that happens, they take the bones and they put it in a box and they rebury it. They have a second burial. Now, a body takes about a year, maybe a year and a half to completely decompose. So this guy's telling Jesus, "Yeah, I'll follow you, but it's going to be about a year and a half." Now, the reason these people let these bodies decompose is because it was their belief that the decaying flesh and the decaying organs, that's what cleansed this person so they could go to heaven. It cleansed them of all their sins and they could get into heaven now. Well, we know that's not the case, don't we? Jesus knew that's not the case. So he wasn't really being rude when he said, "Let the dead bury their dead." He was telling this guy, "Hey, these people are spiritually dead. They're following a religious practice that doesn't mean anything. I'm the way for forgiveness. I'm the way to heaven. And it is far more important for you to go out there and teach that than it is to be involved in some silly religious practice." That's what he was telling him. What's he telling us? Jesus is telling us that while it's good to be in church and be involved in our church groups, we get really, really caught up in our church work. We have committees, and we have meetings, and we have meetings about the meetings. But are we thinking about our church mission? Are we going out of those doors? Are we putting all that effort on going out there and finding those people who are spiritually dead, who are spiritually lost? I mean, after all, that's our mission. It involves us getting our hands dirty a little bit, but we need to go to the jails and talk to those people. We need to go out and feed the homeless. We need to talk to our friends and co-workers. All of those people who have questions or going through rough spots in their life, or who have just a darkness about them. They need to learn about Jesus. That's our mission. We should invite those people to church. If everybody here invited a friend next week, we wouldn't have room. But how great would that be? That's our mission. Yes, the committees and the meetings about the meetings, those things are important. But we need to not put all our focus just on that. We need to remember what our focus is and not just try to fit God in our life when it's convenient, but live our lives around God. The last two verses are this. Still another said, I will follow you, but first let me go back and say goodbye to my family. Jesus replied, no one who puts a hand to the plow and looks back is fit for the service in the kingdom of God. Wow. There again, we have seemingly rude Jesus until we know the rest of the story. This guy is asking to go say goodbye to his family. The common practice is to have a goodbye festival. Now, these festivals would last for 3 or 4 days. And then there would be a festival for the father's side of the family, and a festival for the mother's side of the family. And then his friends would have a festival. This guy was asking, hey, I need to go party for about 12 days before I can follow you. And Jesus is going, no. No, I don't think so. I'm not asking you to leave your family. I'm not asking you to say goodbye to your family. You're not going to lose your family. You're going to gain the Heavenly Father when you follow me. You go out, you follow me, and you go back and teach them the good news that I've taught you. You're not leaving them. And the plow thing, he was telling him, dude, you need to think about what you're doing. You have this plow, and you need to focus on where you're going so that you can have a straight row, so that you can plant your seeds in that straight row, and your goodness will come up. If you're constantly looking behind you to see what you're missing out on, you're going to have a crooked row, and it'll never work. He's telling this guy, look at my other disciples. I had these fishermen. They had nets full of fish now, and I said, drop your nets and follow me. And they said, okay. Mr. Tax Collector, stop what you're doing and follow me. Okay. He asked this guy, hey, stop what you're doing and follow me. And he goes, okay. Oh, but first let me do this. You see, Jesus is trying to tell us this day, in that verse, is are we letting our outside commitments take us away from God? Are we letting our outside commitments take us away from church and prayer and the Bible? Now, I have been guilty of saying something similar to this, and I have heard it said, you know what, I'm going to be a better Christian. I'm going to start following Jesus. I'm going to go to church more, but first, I need to finish my education. First, I need to get my career going. I'm working on this advancement. I need to get promoted. And I got to put all my time and effort into that. I have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and we're really trying to develop our relationship so we can start a family. Well, I play sports, or my kids, they play sports. We've all been there. We have all said something along these lines. We're letting these outside influences take us away from the most important thing there is. God, reading the Bible, prayer, church. And He doesn't want us to do that. He doesn't want us to forget that we're not supposed to fit God into our lives when it's convenient for us. We're supposed to live our lives around God. Now, if you're like me, you need a visual. And you see, what I'm getting out of these verses is that God is telling us, I'm really kind of not interested in your excuses. What I'm interested in as you following the ways and practices of Jesus Christ. If you do that, I'll take care of the details. So I have this visual aid for us today. This is going to be our life. This is our life. This is what happens. This is God. I know that because it says so on there. And then these are all the things that happen to us throughout the day that we just can't stop. They happen. So imagine this. You wake up in the morning, you're a little bit late, and you can't find your car keys, and so it starts. You start getting stressed out. And it starts to fill up your life. It starts to fill your container. Then you're driving down to work, and the people are cutting you off, and there's traffic in the way, and it keeps on filling up your life. You get to work, your co-workers and your boss, they're wearing you out. And then your customers, they're starting to bother you too. And then you get a phone call from your wife, and you're not having a good relationship with her at the moment. Or your kids, and they're starting to stress you out. And then you drive home, and there's more traffic. People are in the way, they're cutting you off, and you're just, you're starting to get more stressed. Then you got to go home and deal with your spouse who's nagging you, and your kids who are wearing you out. And finally, at the end of the day, you're just, what is going on? Where is my life? What's happening to me? And you remember, wait a minute, I need to put God in here. And so we try to fit God in our life. But it doesn't fit. It's not working for us. That happened to me many, many days until I decided to try something different. I decided that I was going to wake up and I was going to try to live my life around God. So I wake up and God starts my day. God, thank you for this opportunity to maybe go out and make somebody else's day a little bit better. And you know what? I was still a little bit late. I still couldn't find my car keys. But I thank God for the opportunity to go out and make my life better. And then I get to work after traffic. But you know what? I didn't let traffic affect me that much. I asked God for patience because I realized that getting frustrated in traffic doesn't make the traffic go any faster. It just makes me frustrated. And then I get there and I'm dealing with my coworkers and my bosses who are starting to wear me out. But I ask God for some patience to help them, to lead them by example, to be a better person. And then that way maybe they will start doing what I'm doing. I have to deal with my customers. But I'm going to do this in a way that's honest. Something that I can be proud of. Something that my family can be proud of. And then I have to deal with my wife. She's calling me on my phone, or your husband calls you on the phone. And you're stopping because you realize that you're not loving them like Christ loved the church. Have you been focusing on all their negatives? How many times have you told them what you love about them? All the good things they do. So you start doing that. And then you finally get home after traffic. Traffic was horrible. People were cutting you off. But this time, instead of waving at them, you waved at them with all your fingers this time.